The night was quiet, but the air felt strange to John. He lived alone on a small farm on the edge of the city. The stars shone bright above, and a cool wind moved through the trees. John was getting ready to sleep when suddenly he heard a noise outside his barn. It was not like any sound he had heard before, soft growl mixed with words, almost like someone speaking. John's heart beat faster. He slowly walked toward the barn door and opened it just a little. Outside, under the dim moonlight, he saw a large creature. It looked like a dog, but much bigger and different. Its fur was shiny and silver blue, and its eyes glowed softly with a blue light. The creature looked straight at John and said in a clear voice, "You should prepare, human. We're having puppies." John froze. Was he dreaming? Was the cold night air playing tricks on his mind? The creature spoke English, and the words made no sense to him. Puppies? What puppies? And who was this strange visitor? The alien canine stepped closer, but did not look dangerous. Instead, there was a sadness and fear in its glowing eyes. "Please," it said, "I need your help." John blinked. He wanted to run, but something in the creature's voice stopped him. It was not a threat, it was a plea. John closed the barn door behind him and leaned against it. He thought about calling the police or the army, but what would he say? An alien dog? They would never believe him. "Who are you?" John finally asked, his voice shaking. "I am called Kale," the creature said. "We come from a far planet, and my family is growing. My mate is carrying our puppies, but we are not safe here." John looked at Kale's tall, strong body. Could see the muscles moving under the fur. Kale's ears twitched as he looked around nervously. "Not safe. From what?" John asked. Kale's eyes grew dark. "There are others who hunt us. They want to stop our kind from growing. Our puppies have powers that can change the future. They are destroyed, our race will end." John's mind raced. This was too much to believe. Aliens, puppies with powers, hunters in the dark. It sounded like a story from a movie, but Kale looked real and scared. Suddenly, soft noise came from behind Kale. John turned and saw a smaller creature moving slowly through the trees. It was another canine, smaller and softer, with white and blue fur. It moved carefully, tired and weak. Kale looked at it with love. "This is Mira. She carries our future." John stepped forward. Mira's eyes met his, and John felt a strange warmth. Mira was hurt, but still strong. "We must protect them," Kale said, his voice strong but urgent. "But I cannot do this alone." John swallowed his fear. He never thought his quiet life would change like this. But here was a chance to be part of something bigger, something important. "Okay," John said slowly, "I will help. But you have to tell me everything? What kind of danger is coming?" Kale nodded. "There is a group called the Hunters. They destroy families like ours. We barely escaped their last attack. We need a safe place, and you must prepare for what is coming." John's eyes searched the dark woods. He did not see anything yet, but he felt eyes watching from the shadows. The wind blew harder, and John heard the distant howl of strange creatures. Kale's ears flattened, and Mira whimpered softly. "Tonight is just the beginning," Kale said. "You must be ready, human." John's heart beat fast. He looked at the two alien canines, feeling a mix of fear and hope. This was the start of something new, something dangerous. But he would not turn away. He stepped back inside the barn, locking the door behind him. He needed to think, to plan. He had no idea what lay ahead, but one thing was clear: his life was about to change forever. Outside, the moon disappeared behind dark clouds, and the night grew darker still. Somewhere in the distance, the hunters were coming. John woke early the next morning, but he did not feel calm. The strange words of Kale echoed in his mind. You should prepare, human. We're having puppies. John sat on the edge of his bed, trying to make sense of everything. Could he really trust this alien canine? Was this real, or just a dream? He looked out the window. The sun was rising, but the forest near his farm still looked dark and quiet. The birds were silent. Something was wrong. Suddenly, there was a soft tapping on the door. John opened it slowly. Kale stood there, looking serious. Mira followed behind, moving carefully, but still weak. John stepped back to let them in. Kale's voice was low and tense. John, we do not have much time. The hunters are closer than you think. They can smell us even from far away. We need to move carefully. John nodded, feeling a chill run down his spine. Who are these hunters? Why do they want to hurt you? Kale's eyes darkened. The hunters are a group from another planet. They believe our puppies are dangerous. They want to stop us from growing stronger. If they find Mira and her puppies, they will destroy them. John's mind raced. Why are your puppies so special? What can they do? Kale looked away for a moment, then said, Our puppies will have powers no one has ever seen. They can heal, protect, and even change the future of many worlds. That is why the hunters fear us. John's heart beat faster. He looked at Mira, who was lying on a small blanket in the corner. She was tired, but still brave. John wanted to help, but he did not know how. Where can we hide? John asked. Kale's ears twitched. Your farm is quiet, but it is not safe. Enough. We need a stronger shelter, a place with walls that can block their sensors. John thought about the old warehouse near the river. It was empty and abandoned for years. It had thick metal walls and no windows. Maybe it could work. I know a place, John said. It's old but strong. We can go there tonight. Kale nodded. Good. We must prepare. John looked outside. The wind was stronger now. The forest seemed alive with strange sounds, twigs snapping, leaves rustling, and distant howls. Something was moving in the shadows. Suddenly, a loud noise broke the silence. It sounded like heavy footsteps coming closer to the farm. John and Kale froze. Myra whimpered softly. John grabbed a metal pipe from the corner. Get ready, Kale whispered. They are here. John looked toward the dark edge of the trees. Two tall figures were walking slowly into the clearing. They were dressed in black armor that shimmered in the moonlight. Their faces were hidden by helmets with red glowing eyes. The hunters. John's blood ran cold. The creatures moved carefully, scanning the area with strange devices. They did not speak, but their steps made the ground shake. Kale growled low and stepped in front of Myra. Stay behind me, he said to John. John's hands shook, but he stood firm. He knew he had to protect these aliens. Suddenly, one hunter raised a strange weapon. It shot a beam of blue light that hit the ground near Kale's feet. The dirt exploded in sparks. Kale barked loudly and charged at the hunters. John followed, swinging the metal pipe. The battle was quick and fierce. Kale moved fast, biting and dodging the beams of light. John swung his pipe, hitting one hunter's armor with a heavy thud. The hunter stumbled but did not fall. One hunter aimed the weapon at Mira, who tried to hide behind a tree. John saw the blue light moving toward her and screamed, No. Without thinking, John jumped and pushed Mira out of the way. The beam hit a rock instead and exploded in a shower of sparks. The hunters growled in anger. They retreated slowly, disappearing back into the forest. John stood, breathing hard. Kale came back, licking Mira's face gently. You saved her life. Human Kale said with respect. John nodded, feeling a strange pride. I'm not going to let them hurt your family. Kale's eyes softened. You are brave, John. We need your help more than ever." The night was still, but John knew the danger was not gone. The hunters would return, stronger and smarter. "We have to move to the warehouse now," John said. Cale agreed. "Let's go before they come back." John helped Mira up and took Cale's side. Together, they left the farm, moving quietly. Into the night, the future was uncertain. But one thing was clear: John's life was no longer ordinary. He was now part of something much bigger. And the fate of the alien puppies rested in his hands. As they disappeared into the shadows, the forest seemed to watch them. The hunters were waiting. The fight had only just begun. The night air was cold and sharp as John, Cale, and Mira moved silently through the dark forest. The trees whispered above them, shadows twisting in the moonlight. Every crack of a twig made John's heart jump. He felt like they were being watched. Because they were, John held a small bag of supplies. Inside were blankets, food, and a few tools he thought might help. Cale walked beside him, muscles tense, ears twitching at every sound. Mira followed slowly, her steps weak but steady. "The warehouse is not far now," Cale said quietly. "Will keep us safe from the hunter's sensors and weapons." John nodded but did not say a word. His mind raced with questions. How long could they hide there? What would the hunters do next? And most of all, what were these puppies that Cale and Mira carried inside them? Powers that could change worlds. It all sounded too strange, suddenly. Cale stopped and raised his hand. "Listen," he whispered. John strained his ears. At first, he heard nothing but the night sounds, leaves, wind, a distant owl. Then, a faint humming noise came from ahead. It was low but steady. Cale's eyes narrowed. Hunter's scanners. They are close. John's blood ran cold. They needed to hurry. "Move faster," John urged Mira gently. She nodded and took a deep breath. They broke through the last line of trees and saw the warehouse ahead. It was a huge old building made of thick metal walls, with no windows except a few high vents. Rust covered the walls, but it looked strong. This place could hide them. John ran to the large sliding door and pushed. It was heavy and stuck, but with Cale's help, the door opened with a loud groan. Inside, it was dark and smelled of dust and oil. John switched on his flashlight and scanned the room. It was empty except for some broken crates and old machinery. "We can stay here," John said. "It's safe. No one will find us easily." Cale nodded, but his eyes looked worried. "We must set traps and alarms. The hunters find us, they will try to break in." John agreed. They worked fast, setting tripwires around the entrance and using old tools to block other doors and windows. Mira curled up on a soft blanket John had brought. She looked tired but peaceful for the first time in days. John sat beside her and whispered, "You're safe here now. I won't let anything happen to you or your puppies." Mira closed her eyes and smiled faintly. Cale came over and placed a large paw on John's shoulder. "You are brave, human. We owe you our lives." John felt warmth at Cale's words. He had never felt part of something so important before. But the night was far from over. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed outside. The warehouse shook as if something heavy had hit it. John and Cale rushed to the door. The tripwires had been triggered. The hunters were here, from the shadows outside. Red lights flickered and harsh voices called out commands in a language John didn't understand. Cale growled low and prepared to fight. John's hands trembled, but he grabbed a metal pipe. "We have to hold them off." The door shook again. Something heavy was trying to break it open. John looked at Cale. "What can I do?" Cale's eyes flashed. "Help me with the traps. Slow them down." Together, They worked quickly, fixing the broken traps and setting new ones using old wires and broken glass. The hunters hit the door again and again. Sparks flew where their weapons struck. John heard Mira whimper softly behind him. She was scared but still holding on. Minutes passed like hours. Suddenly, the door gave way. Hunters poured inside like shadows, tall, armored figures with glowing red eyes. Their weapons aimed at John and Cale. John swung his pipe and hit the first hunter's armor. It made a loud clang, but the hunter did not stop. Cale leaped forward, biting and clawing. He was fast and strong, but there were many hunters. John fought with all his strength, feeling his arms ache. Then a bright light filled the room. Myra stood, glowing softly. Her tired face changed to one full of power. She stepped forward and raised her paw. A wave of energy burst from Myra. The hunters froze, stepping back, their weapons short-circuiting. John stared, amazed. Cale barked happily. The puppy's power is strong. Myra's strength is growing. The hunters retreated, howling in anger. John helped Myra sit down. "You saved us," he said softly. Myra smiled weakly. "We must keep moving. The hunters will not give up." John looked around the warehouse. The fight was over, but the war had just begun. He made a silent promise. "I will protect you and your puppies, no matter what." The night grew quiet. Again, but deep in the forest, unseen eyes watched the warehouse. The hunters were planning their next move. The days passed slowly inside the old warehouse. John, Cale, and Mira tried to rest, but their minds were never at peace. The threat of the hunters loomed over them like a dark cloud. Every noise made them jump. Every shadow seemed alive. John spent his time fixing the broken traps and making the place safer. Cale trained him to fight and move quietly. Myra stayed close, her strength slowly returning, but she was still weak. One night, John sat near the entrance, watching the dark forest. The moon was full, but the air was heavy and still. Suddenly, a cold wind blew through the warehouse, and the shadows outside seemed to grow larger. John felt a chill run down his spine. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the warehouse. The heavy metal door shook violently. "Hunters!" Cale growled, jumping to his feet. John grabbed a pipe and ran toward the noise. Myra stood slowly, glowing faintly with a soft blue light. The door at the back was starting to bend inward. The hunters were trying to break in. John hit the door with all his strength, but the metal was strong. He could hear the hunters angry. Voices outside, shouting in their strange language. Cale stood beside John, ready to fight. "We must hold them off," Cale said, eyes sharp. The first hunter burst through the door. Tall and armored, red lights flashing on his helmet. He aimed a strange weapon at John. John swung his pipe just in time. It hit the hunter's arm, making a loud clang. The hunter growled and stepped back. More hunters poured in, weapons ready. John fought with all his might, hitting and dodging. Cale was fast, biting and clawing with power. But the hunters were many, and they moved like shadows, surrounding John and Cale. Mira stepped forward, her blue glow growing stronger. She raised her paw, and a wave of energy pushed the hunters back. "Keep them away from Mira," Cale shouted. John moved to protect Mira. He felt fear, but also courage. Suddenly, one hunter broke through and aimed his weapon at Mira. John threw himself in front of her. The weapon fired a beam of bright light. John felt a sharp pain, but stayed standing. Cale roared and charged at the hunter, biting hard. The hunter screamed and fell. The hunters hesitated. Mira's glow grew brighter, shining like a star. Then, from Mira's body, small blue sparks flew out and surrounded John and Kale like a shield. The hunters snarled but stopped their attack. They retreated slowly, disappearing back into the forest. John breathed heavily. His body hurt, but he was alive. Kale licked John's face. "You saved Mira. You are brave, human." John looked at Mira. Her glow faded, and she fell to the ground. "Tired. We cannot stay here," Kale said. "They will return with more force." John nodded. "We need to move. Find a better place." Myra opened her eyes weakly. "The puppies will be born soon. We must protect them at all costs." John felt a strange connection to this alien family. He had never imagined his life would change like this. "We'll find a way," John said. "Quietly, I promise." Outside, the forest was dark and quiet again. But the danger was far from gone. The hunters were watching, waiting for their next chance. John, Kale, and Mira knew one thing for sure. The fight for the future had only just begun. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting soft orange light on the warehouse where John, Kale, and Mira had taken shelter. The battle from the night before still echoed in John's mind. His body ached, but his spirit was stronger than ever. John woke early and looked around the cold, empty warehouse. He saw Mira lying on a blanket, her eyes closed, but her breathing steady. Kale was outside, pacing and listening for any signs of danger. John knew they couldn't stay here for long. The hunters would come back. They were stronger, smarter, and more dangerous than anyone John had ever faced. But something inside John had changed. He felt a new courage rising, a courage he didn't know he had. Kale came inside and sat beside John. "You fought well last night," he said. "But there is more to learn if you want to protect us." John nodded. "Teach me," he said simply. For the next few days, John trained hard. Kale showed him how to move quietly, how to use his strength without wasting energy, and how to watch for danger before it came. John learned quickly, surprising even Kale. Mira rested, but every day she seemed a little stronger. John often sat near her, talking softly, hoping to give her hope. One evening, while the sun was setting, John sat outside. With Kale, the sky was a deep red, and the forest was quiet. Kale looked at John and said, "The puppies will be born soon. When that happens, everything will change." John's heart raced. He thought about the little lives inside Mira, growing and waiting to be born in a dangerous world. "What can I do to help?" John asked. Kale's eyes were serious. "We must prepare. The hunters will come again. This time, they will not stop until they find the puppies." John swallowed hard. The weight of responsibility was heavy on his shoulders. "I'm ready," John said. "I will protect your family, no matter what." Kale smiled. "I believe in you, human." That night, John stayed awake, watching the dark woods with a new determination. Suddenly, Mira cried out softly. John rushed inside. Mira's eyes were open, and she looked scared but strong. "It's time," she whispered. John helped Kale prepare a small, safe space inside the warehouse. They laid soft blankets and made a warm nest for Mira. The air was thick with tension as Mira's breathing grew heavier. Then, one by one, tiny sounds filled the room, soft whimpers, gentle nudges. The puppies were coming. John held Mira's paw gently, his heart full of hope. Hours passed. Mira gave birth to 5 small puppies. They were beautiful, with silver and blue fur, just like their parents. Their eyes were closed, but John could feel their power, small but growing. Kale looked at the puppies with pride. "They are strong. They will change the future." John smiled softly. He felt a deep connection to this strange new family. But Their peace was short-lived. Suddenly, alarms rang loudly around the warehouse. The tripwires were triggered. John's heart jumped. "The hunters," Cale said, growling. John grabbed a weapon, a metal pipe, and stood beside Cale. Outside, red lights flickered in the trees. The hunters were back, and they had found them. The forest echoed with the sound of heavy footsteps and strange weapons charging. John felt fear, but also a fierce courage burning inside. He shouted, "We will not let you take them." The hunters broke through the entrance, ready to attack. John and Cale fought with everything they had, protecting Mira and the puppies. Mira stood in the middle, glowing brightly, her energy forming a shield around her family. John dodged and swung, feeling every hit but never giving up. The battle was long and brutal, but John's courage never faltered. Finally, the hunters retreated, defeated but not gone. John looked at Mira and the puppies, safe but tired. Cale patted John's back. "You are no longer just a human. You are our protector." John smiled through his pain. "I will always be here. For you, for them." The fight was far from over, but John knew one thing: with courage, hope, and friendship, they could face whatever came next. The days grew darker as the hunters prepared their last attack. John, Cale, Mira, and the puppies stayed hidden in the warehouse, but the fear in the air was heavy. Everyone knew this fight could decide their future. John looked at the puppies. They were growing fast, their little eyes now open and shining. With strange power, Mira watched over them carefully, her body glowing softly, a sign that her strength was returning. Cale stood guard by the door, his eyes sharp, his muscles tense. John felt nervous but ready. "This is it," he told himself. "We must win." That night, the silence was broken by distant sounds, whispers in the wind, footsteps coming closer. John grabbed his weapon, a sturdy metal pipe, and checked his small arsenal of traps. Cale growled low, "They are near." Suddenly, the warehouse door exploded open. The hunters poured in, faster and more furious than before. Their red eyes burned like fire in the darkness. John and Cale fought side by side, striking and dodging with skill. The hunters were strong and many, but John's courage was stronger. Mira stood in the center, her glow growing brighter and brighter. The puppies, still small, gathered close around her, their own light mixing with hers. John watched in awe. The power from Mira and her puppies was like a shining shield. The hunters aimed their weapons, but each time they fired, the beams bounced harmlessly off the glowing shield. One hunter managed to get close to John, swinging a heavy metal club. John blocked it with his pipe and pushed the hunter back. Cale bit at another hunter's leg, causing the creature to howl in pain. John saw Mira's face tense. She was using all her strength to protect her family. Suddenly, the warehouse shook. One hunter had found a weak wall and began breaking through it. John ran to stop him, but the hunter was fast. The wall cracked and fell, letting cold wind and dark shadows inside. The fight grew fiercer. John knew they could not hold out much longer. He shouted, "Mira, the puppies. Protect them at all costs." Mira nodded and moved the puppies behind. Her glowing shield, Cale fought harder, his teeth sinking into armor and his claws tearing metal. John's arms were tired, but he did not stop. He swung and struck, feeling the weight of every hit. Suddenly, one of the puppies stepped forward. It was small, but its eyes glowed bright blue. The puppy let out a high-pitched bark, and from its mouth came a wave of energy that knocked several hunters off their feet. John felt hope rise inside him. More puppies joined, their tiny bodies shining. With growing power, the hunters began to falter, stumbling back as the puppies' energy pushed them away. John saw Cale's smile. his fierce eyes shining with pride. But the hunters were not done. Their leader, a massive hunter with glowing red armor, stepped forward. He raised a powerful weapon, aiming directly at Mira and the puppies. John's heart stopped. With all his strength, John ran forward, placing himself between the weapon and Mira. The weapon fired. A bright light exploded. John felt a sharp pain. A tail charged, biting the leader's arm and knocking the weapon aside. The leader snarled and fought back. But John and Kale would not let him win. Together, they pushed the hunters back. One by one, the hunters retreated, their weapons useless against the puppies. Power and the humans' courage. The warehouse grew quiet again. John looked around. Breathing hard, Mira came to his side, her glow soft now. "The fight is over," she said softly. John smiled, though his body ached. "For now," he said. Kale nodded. "You fought well, human. You're family now." John looked at the puppies. Happy and safe. He knew the future was uncertain, but together they could face anything. The night sky was clear, stars shining bright. A new beginning had started. The first light of dawn spilled softly through the cracks of the old warehouse. After the fierce battle, a calm settled over John, Kale, Mira, and the puppies. The night had been long and hard, but they had survived. John sat quietly beside Mira, watching the puppies sleep peacefully. Their tiny bodies rose and fell with each breath, their fur shining faintly in the morning light. John could hardly believe these small creatures had the power to change so much. Mira smiled weakly. "They are safe now," she whispered. "Thanks to you, John." John shook his head. "No, we did this together. You, Kale, and the puppies. I'm just lucky to be here." Kale padded over and lay down beside John. "You are more than lucky. You are family." John smiled, feeling warmth spread inside his chest. He had come a long way from the quiet life on his farm. Now he had a new family, one that was strange, powerful, and full of hope. Days passed, and the world outside the warehouse began to feel less dangerous. The hunters had retreated far away, but John knew they could return someday. Still, the puppies grew stronger each day. Their glowing eyes and soft barks filled the space with life and light. John spent his time caring for the puppies, helping Mira heal, and preparing for whatever might come next. One afternoon, Kale stood at the warehouse entrance, looking toward the horizon. "We cannot stay hidden forever," he said. "The world must know about us someday." John nodded slowly. "Maybe it's time. Maybe people are ready." Mira's eyes brightened. "With your help, we can build a new home. A place where our family and others like us can live in peace." John thought about his quiet farm and the life he once had. But he knew that life was gone now. He stood up, determination in his eyes. "Then we build that future," he said. "Together." The puppies wagged their tiny tails, sensing the hope in John's words. Kale smiled. "Human, you have changed everything." John looked at his new family and felt something he had not felt before, belonging as the sun set behind the trees. John, Kale, Mira, and the puppies stepped outside the warehouse. The stars twinkled above, bright and endless. John breathed deeply. A new chapter had begun. The fight was over, but the adventure was just starting. Together, they would face whatever came next, not as strangers, but as family, and the world would never be the same again.